Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for day one of Network After Work's Digital Marketing Summit focused on LinkedIn. Today, our speaker, Teddy, will discuss how to use LinkedIn as a business tool in 2020 and beyond. Teddy Burris is a LinkedIn strategist and trainer. Since early 2010, Teddy has been delivering LinkedIn training and coaching programs for business professionals, guiding them around the best practices and tactics of using LinkedIn as a business tool. Teddy uses his Toastmaster, Sandler training, networking skills, and certified social media strategist experiences to lead people in the best uses of LinkedIn for their individual and business goals. Teddy is from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where he plays with LinkedIn every day and hangs out with his business partner, aka his wife. As Teddy goes through his presentation, feel free to leave your questions in the Q&A section or in the chat so you can answer at the end. And on that note, I will now hand it over to Teddy.
Thank you very much, Natalie. And by the way, I can't see the chat, so I'm going to have to, excuse me, I can't see the Q&A, so I'm going to rely on you to bring up any questions that come up as I move forward. And again, thank you for letting me share with everyone today. This is a very high-level conversation. I am not going to get deep. I'm going to stay out of the weeds. I'm going to stay out of the click, 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 because I really believe that we get the greatest value when we philosophically understand how to use the tools. And we learn how to do the click, click, click by practicing, experimenting. Sometimes I refer to it as playing. So here's my conversation. And I'm going to introduce myself to you a little bit. I've been practicing using LinkedIn since 2004. I lost my first LinkedIn account when I didn't understand what I'm doing, but got back on it pretty seriously in 2008 and got very deliberate in the use of LinkedIn as a business tool. And I play with LinkedIn every day. And the reason why I play with it every day is so that I can understand it better and better every day, so I can help people who want to get helped on how to use LinkedIn as a business tool. So I went and I decided to look at 10 areas of LinkedIn that I see lots of mistakes on, lots of problems. And anytime you're using a business tool, you want to make sure you stay as far away from the problems as you possibly can, so that you don't misuse or you don't lose out on the opportunities and the benefits, the potential of using a business tool. And this applies to LinkedIn as well. So what I've done is I've written these 10 problems in a sort of tongue-in-cheek, satirical way, and I'm going to share them with you. And I'm going to give you my perspectives on ideas of how to correct these problems or make sure you don't become someone who is having that problem. Again, feel free to ask questions along the way, use the Q&A, and my handler / Natalie will share them with me as we go. So problem number one, and this is huge: bad email, bad phone number, bad website URL. And, and people say to me, the reason why they don't worry about that is no one sees my LinkedIn profile anyway. Well, that's in my opinion, is a narrow mindset. People do see your LinkedIn profile, and you want them to be able to see your email address when they're connected to you, phone number when you're connected to them, and then your website for anyone that's on LinkedIn. You want to make sure that when people see your contact information, that they can in fact get in contact with you. And by the way, sometimes worse than having a bad email address or a bad phone number is your voicemail or your email box being full. Look, we're using LinkedIn as a business tool. And if we're going to use it as a business tool, let's wrap up all the processes around it and treat those like business tools. Don't be this person. Don't make that mistake. True story, I coached a business executive who missed out on an opportunity for a business deal because he wrote his phone number down incorrectly. And the person tried to call him, couldn't get through, called the next guy. Years later, the guy he lost the business to told him, well, the reason the guy called me is because you didn't have your right phone number. He couldn't get a hold of you. Don't be that. Review your contact information. As your career changes, as your business changes, review it. And not only review it, test it. Call the phone number you see, click on the link you see, click on the email address you see, and make sure that it works. Here's problem number 2. Your LinkedIn profile is full of irrelevant stuff. And people will say to me on a regular basis, well, it's just like my resume, right? Or they'll say this, I want them to know it all. I want people to know everything about me. And that's not a business philosophy. It really isn't. A business philosophy is for you to share stuff, content, information, experiences, accomplishments, successes, your skills, your abilities, your talent, your passion, your interests. Here's the word, that is relevant to your target audience, relevant to your role. Information that can get the viewer, sometimes I refer to this as your most important viewer, get them to understand you a little bit more and to understand what you have the ability to do to help them create value for them. Too often, when your LinkedIn profile is full of irrelevant content, it can distract your most important viewer or your target audience, or it can confuse them. So don't do that. You don't need to put that role, true story, from 1977 when you worked driving a trash truck in the morning and delivering caskets in the afternoon. You don't need to refer to your experiences as a barista at a private coffee shop if today you're a project manager. You don't want to refer to anything in your past that is either not showing growth or relevant to who you are today. No, Charles, it's not a resume. No, Steve, they don't need to know it all. They need to know what's relevant in your history and in your growth. So look at your LinkedIn profile. Look at all the sections of your profile and make sure that content is not only relevant, but clear and specific, targeted to your target audience, information that can help them. Here's problem number 3. Poor or no specific LinkedIn connecting best practices. I hear this on a regular basis. Teddy, why can't we connect with everyone? Or I hear this, I'm only connecting with my clients. I've actually heard this numerous times. I'm only connecting with people that I know, or I'm only connecting with people that I've met. None of those are appropriate. You should be very purposeful about who you connect with. You should be very purposeful about who you accept an invite from and who you will send an invite from. Because at the end of the day, your LinkedIn network could become a huge part of your, what I refer to as your most important asset in life. My most important asset in my life, and an asset, by the way, is something tangible. For me, it is my networks, my LinkedIn network, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Quora, Instagram, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All the contacts that are in my cell phone, the people in my life. That's my most important asset in life. And so I'm very purposeful about who I connect with. I'm very purposeful about growing it every day. Think about this. What is your process? Are you being purposeful when you're sending out invites? And are you being deliberate about accepting LinkedIn invites? We need to be that way. If we're not, we're wasting time and we're not building an asset that can create great value for us.
Hey, Teddy, we have a question that came in. Would
Yes,
this
ma'am.
be just for our own personal LinkedIn pages, or can it also be for our business LinkedIn pages as well?
That's a great question. And the answer is that this conversation is very deliberately focused, this problem number 3, to your personal profile. Because company pages, anybody can follow your company pages. And hopefully, by the way, you know who is following your company page. You're paying attention to new followers. But when I'm referring to connecting here, I'm referring to deliberate actions of accepting and sending invites. So thanks for that question. Here's problem number 4. Poor or no LinkedIn content sharing best practices. This is really important. You don't just, well, often I see this. Probably one of the biggest mistakes I see on LinkedIn on a regular basis is that there is no content being shared and no engagement. And you got to be very deliberate about thinking about what is the content that your most important viewer wants. What is it that they need? What is it they can get value from? What is the content that can make them think or help them solve problems? I often say that everything I make $1 million a year doing, by the way, that's numbers just in my head, but everything I make money doing, I give away all day long. I give it away in snippets, pieces, ideas, perspectives, videos, images, posts, et cetera, Just did a YouTube video this morning on the challenges of making choices about content, because sometimes it is a challenge to figure out what's the right kind of content that we should be sharing. And I often hear this: I can share whatever I want to share, or I don't want to share anything. And then I often hear this: hey, look, I can do whatever I want on social media, including cat videos, or politics, or religion. And by the way, the only time you share politics or religion on LinkedIn or any other social media, in my business opinion, is if you're in the political industry or the religious industry. Otherwise, stay away from it. Consider for yourself what's creating value for you. What content should you be sharing? Can it be useful to your target audience, or is it just plain noise or clickbait? Be purposeful. Here's problem number 5. A lover of scrolling and scrolling and scrolling on the LinkedIn newsfeed. These are people who seem to think they have to consume all of the content that LinkedIn shares to them. And that is not important. Actually, it's not even possible. So really, you've got to be very deliberate about what is in your newsfeed. Make deliberate decisions about who are you following, what companies are you following, what groups are you in, what individuals that you are connected to that you want to or do not want to follow. You are in complete control of your newsfeed. Nobody else can control it beyond the LinkedIn algorithms that make best practices or best choices based on what you do, what you touch, what you engage on, and other parts of the algorithm, but you have complete control over it. So start unfollowing people who are sharing irrelevant and useless content. Start unfollowing companies that share totally useless marketing content. Be purposeful about it so that you're not having or even wanting to scroll through the news feed. Set up some hashtag follows and follow some very deliberate content types. It's very important for you not to waste time scrolling through stuff to find a jewel in the rough. Be purposeful about this. You'll get the greatest value if you use LinkedIn purposely.
Teddy, we had a few questions come in regards to the LinkedIn invitations. So here's one of them. How do I politely decline invitations to connect? All I see is ignore or accept when I get these invitations.
Well, that is a great question. And I appreciate that. Was the phrase, how do I politely? Was that what I heard?
Yes. How do I politely decline these invitations?
Man, namaste. That's great. So I'm a huge fan of that. I want my brand to always be on the top and shiny and something that people trust and respect, even though I may not connect with them. So let me tell you my practice for this. And Natalie, who asked that question?
It came in as anonymous.
Okay, that's okay. Anonymous, I'll answer your question. Um, so if you look at your My Network page, you will see on the top of it on the right hand side, if you have current invites, you'll see it says see all and a number. See all and a number. You must click on that, because when you click on that, you'll get the same list of people who ask to connect with you, but you will have the opportunity to send them a message. And that message can be, I really appreciate the invite, whatever you want to say. You can maybe vet them further if you want to connect with them, et cetera, et cetera. And you can be very polite to the other LinkedIn member as you determine if you want to connect or not. Furthermore, if you want, you can invite them to follow you instead of connect with you.
Awesome. And we have one more that came in regards to that. Does it make sense to send invites to people in your same industry, or are they competition?
Oh, that's a great question. So it makes sense to send invites to people who are relevant to you, people who are relevant to your business, people you can learn from, people who can learn from you, people you can help, people who can help you, all of that. And so I have, I'm a part of a group of 1,100 LinkedIn strategists across the globe. I'm connected with probably a couple hundred of them. They're my peers, and yes, they could be considered my competition. But I think that if you can trust and respect that person who others may think of as simply competition, then you could accept their invite. However, I don't actively look to connect with my competition or peers unless I've truly developed a really trusting relationship with them. Great question.
Awesome. Thank you for that. You can continue.
Thank you, Natalie. Here's problem number 6. I love to like stuff. Liking stuff is a thrill for me. It's my favorite way to waste time. Really? And I often hear this, at least I'm doing something. And it's really, don't become a certified serial liker or a certifiable serial liker. Liking content on LinkedIn does not build your brand. Now, don't misunderstand me. Liking content on LinkedIn is nice, it's polite, it's friendly. It helps the author of that content. But it doesn't help you. It doesn't grow your brand. It doesn't show people who you are, how you think, your perspectives, and your ideas. So really, I recommend you minimize the liking activity. It doesn't need to go away, but don't make it your predominant way of engaging on LinkedIn. It's really not beneficial. Now, again, I want to make sure you're clear about something. Liking people's content is helpful for them and helpful for that content, because the more touches a piece of content gets, the more likely LinkedIn is going to show it to someone else. So you could help people by liking their content, but it's really not going to grow your brand. It's really not going to help you. And it might be okay to like a piece of content and then comment on it in a meaningful way. Comment on it with some constructive add to the conversation. But it's not going to help you grow your brand just to be a serial or a certifiable serial liker. Here's problem number 7. I don't know why I'm on here. I'm here because everyone else is. I'm here because my boss told me to be. I'm here just to hang out and see what happens. I'm going to show up every now and then and just see what's going on. I don't have purpose. I'm not focused on a goal. You can't be that. You can't show up on any social media platform without purpose, focused on a goal. It's just, look, this is a business tool. We're trying to do things to create value for ourselves as individuals, for our businesses, and or for our careers. So really make a deliberate decision about why are you on LinkedIn. And if you don't know it today, that's okay. Do some research. Pay attention to conversations. Pay attention to what other people are doing. Pay attention to content and company pages and groups and events, and see if you can find a way, see if you can find the tool in this very imitation Swiss Army knife that creates value for you. And if you find one tool, then look and see what that other tool is and see what you can do with it. How can it create value for you? This analogy is, look at LinkedIn and see what area of LinkedIn can create value for you. Maybe it's a well-written LinkedIn profile. Maybe it's growing the focused LinkedIn network. Maybe it's getting into meaningful conversations. Maybe it's a sum of all of that, focused on your purpose and your goal for your business or your career. You really need to figure out, spend time to think this through, because when you can figure out what it's for, then you can get value from it. And I just saw a chat that showed up and said, isn't a sales pitch what we are all on LinkedIn for? And I hope that was satirical, because that's not why I'm on LinkedIn. And that's not how I've grown my business in the last 10 years. It's not about the sales pitch. It's about building a presence that your most important viewer can understand. It's about building a network of people who are highly relevant to your goals. It's about connecting with those people, striking up a conversation with them about them, and looking for ways to move those connections and those conversations into business conversations. In my business model, it's not about a sales pitch. In my business model, it's about building trust, respect, and like. Now, I'm going to reach into my network and ask for business conversations, but I'm never going to go to the sales pitch until I get permission. So I appreciate seeing that chat. I hope I used it as a satirical statement. It may not be for some. Discover your purpose and goal. Here's problem number 8. I don't know how to measure the results of my use of LinkedIn. And then sometimes I get this, and for people who don't really understand, who are just using LinkedIn to scrape email addresses, who really cares about measuring value? And it really is important. Anytime you use any business tool, you have to measure the value of that business tool. You have to measure the results of your actions and your tasks and your words and your messaging. You've got to be able to measure. And what's that quote? If you don't know how to measure, you don't know what to change or what to improve. You've got to be able to figure this out. And for me, it's not about being overly anal at my measuring activity. For me, thanks, Joe. It's what measures gets managed and then gets improved is my add-on to that statement. So I look at my social selling index on a regular basis. I look at it about twice a month. And I don't get anal about it, but I want to make sure, am I moving in the right direction? Is my actions, my network, my brand, my presence, is that all still putting me in a space that I know that SSI score can show me I'm doing the right things? But further than that, I'm also pretty purposeful about looking at my network and see who I'm connecting with. Now, I connect broadly. I'm a career coach, so I also connect with people who are looking for jobs. But my most important viewer are sales leaders. So I make sure on a monthly basis that I've connected with a reasonable percentage of my new network are sales leaders. Otherwise, I'm not achieving my goals. I also look at how many LinkedIn profile views I get. That's important to me. Not just the number, but who are the people? Who is looking at my profile and how relevant are they to my goals? I also look at specific pieces of content on my personal profile and my business page. And I look and see what kind of engagement am I getting. And I've found some cool magic. I know the best kind of content for me to be sharing. And I try to do that on a regular basis. And more often than not, you'll be surprised to know, or some of you may be surprised to know, that the best content that I share is not about me. It's about information and ideas that can help my target audience. That's the best kind of content. Every now and then, a little bit about me. But you need to measure. You need to look at what you're doing and what results is it creating. By the way, there's one other KPI you need to have on a weekly basis. A weekly basis, you should be measuring this. What new piece of business did I get that came through my activity on LinkedIn? That's important. Natalie, I'm going to answer Sports Scarf's question.
Sounds good.
And it might be Iabel's question as well. Is the premium version of LinkedIn worthwhile? For me, it's critical, but that's for me because I'm use Sales Navigator and I'm very deliberately prospecting every week. And that means I'm doing research. That means that I've built saved searches that I look at on a weekly basis. That means that I've built a very deliberate target set of leads who are highly relevant to me. And I want to manage the activity that I do to review what they are doing. So for me, Sales Navigator is critical, but I will tell you, I told everybody this, until you understand the philosophies of using LinkedIn purposefully, and you built your presence and you're building your network and you have processes in place to engage and share, don't worry about spending a boatload of money on premium versions because you'll get the greatest value out of these core functions of presence, network, and reputation. So thanks for that question.
We have a couple questions that came in regards to content. So we have Jack and Fran that both asked, when you have posted content, how much do conversations on LinkedIn actually matter? Do I need to respond to every comment on my post?
That's huge. Fran and Jack, that's huge. So look, think about it. Maybe you don't need to respond to every comment, but you need to respond in such a way to create two things. Number one, if your target audience, most important viewer, a lead, a prospect, a client, engages on your stuff, be polite, friendly, and respond back. Maybe the response is a simple, polite thank you. Maybe the response is to pull them deeper into the conversation. And then the second reason why you want to engage is because the more your content gets touched, including by you, the more opportunities your content will be seen. So when you can pull people deeper into the conversations, pull others into the conversation, then you create an opportunity for your content to be seen. Important thought. Thank you for asking.
Awesome. We have just one more question that can kind of tie into that a little bit. This comes from Dan. He says, how can you purposefully interact with your followers when you have over 19,000 followers?
So
it's a lot.
So you've looked at my profile. LinkedIn, by the way, thinks I have 20,000. They sent me an email this morning and said, congratulations for hitting 20. I've got to figure out what that means. You know, I can't. I really can't. I have 19,000 followers. That is not the number of connections I have. That's the number of followers I have because I encourage people to follow me. So I can't impact, what's the word? I can't, one-on-one engage with everybody. It won't happen. But the people who follow me like my stuff. At least I hope they like my stuff or they wouldn't follow me. They like my content. It's useful. So here's the answer. The answer is this. I can't engage with everybody. I got to be very deliberate to engage with my most important viewer, my target audience, those sales leaders, while I also engage with others when I have time. But here's how I create value for 19,070 some odd followers. I give them content they want. That's very deliberate. I do not live by a content calendar. I create content based on the questions that are asked of me. That is how I engage, how I create value for 19,000 some odd followers. Great question. I'm gonna get another one, Natalie. Kirk asked a question on the chat. Does it make sense to make my contacts private? I don't necessarily want my competitors to know who my clients are. Well, Kirk, I have 19,000 followers. Go try to figure out who my clients are. It ain't 19,000. Here's my answer in a more deliberate method. Let your connections, these are your connections. The only people who can see who you're connected to are mutual connections or the people, your first level connections. So make your network accessible to your first level connections. The reason you do that is so you can help others. Because if I'm connected to you and I see that you're connected to a guy named Steve, that I think would be a great conversation for me to have, not competition for you, then wouldn't it be nice for you to help me, which would create an opportunity for me to want to help you? It's called networking for mutual benefit. So I make my network accessible to everyone I'm connected to. Why? So I can help them, so they may be willing to help me. By the way, unless they're connected to you, they can't see your total network. They can only see mutual connections. Great question, though. Albert said, you encourage people to follow you. What kind of message you craft to invite them to follow you? That's a great question. So I use a tool called Text Expander, and I'm banging on my keyboard all day long. And so Text Expander are scripts. And so my script basically says, I appreciate your interest in connecting with me. Please follow me. And I give them my follow URL. Which basically is my activity page with my post. I also invite them to follow me on Quora, YouTube, Twitter, sometimes Twitter, and my blog. And I will tell you, when I turn down accepting an invite, but instead invite them to follow me, I almost always get thank you. Steve says, what happens when you have a lot of competition near your connection? Yeah, you might want to think about that. But the big picture, just because you can see who I'm connected to doesn't mean you know who my clients are. I've got 13,000 LinkedIn connections. You're not going to find my clients in there. Or if you do, here's the other thing, Steve, that I offer is this. If you're doing right by your clients, don't worry about your competition. Don't worry about them having a phone book that can possibly find your competition. I'm going to look at Fran's question before I move on. Fran says, what about when people are reaching out to you requesting connect? How could you much to the followership? I don't want them as connections, for example, CPA recruiters. Fran, I didn't get that middle question, part of the question. How can you much to the followership? Again, when I get an invite to connect, if I don't want to connect, what I do is I invite them to follow me. And here's a flaw. Fran, thanks for this question. Here's a flaw. I think she meant to move them to followership. You can't move people to followership. This is a huge flaw in LinkedIn. If you're connected, by default, you are both connected to each other, and by default, you are following each other. Now listen, this is important. The moment you go to someone's profile, you click on more and you click on remove connection, this is what happens. A, it's immediate. There is no other pop-up box. It's immediate. Secondly, you are no longer following them. and they are no longer following you. So I hate that. I've complained to LinkedIn about it numerous times. I think that if I no longer want to follow you, or be connected to you, but you want to follow me, I shouldn't be the one to tell you you can't follow me. Really hate that. Jorge asked about, filtering out people who are sharing too much stuff. Unfollow them. Go to their profile, more, unfollow. CC wants to know if I should remove connections that are not relevant anymore. Maybe not. They may become relevant, or they may know people that you need to know. Let me keep moving a little bit, and I'll follow up at the end with more Q&A. Here's problem number 9. And Lee, yes, this is being recorded. I don't want my picture on the internet. I want to remain mysterious. This is a huge problem because, first of all, LinkedIn has a stat that says something like, have a picture on your profile, and your profile is 27. I think it's close to 27% more likely to be seen. And my statement is this: no profile picture, you're saying you're not approachable. You don't want to have, first of all, you don't want a profile picture that's not you. You don't want a ghost profile picture. You don't want a profile picture of you and your cat and your dog and your gerbil, or with some dude's arm around you, or with your girlfriend in the picture. And even though I love kids, I don't think you want a profile picture of you and your kid. This is your professional profile. Funny, huh, Joe? This is your professional profile. Have a professional picture. You don't need to hire a photographer and pay them $500 for a headshot. You may want to pay someone, but you want a professional profile picture. And you want it to be seen by everyone because it shows you're approachable. It shows people that you're real. It shows people that you're honest about who you are, because we are who we are. By the way, my profile picture from 2004 doesn't look anything like my profile picture today. Have no idea why. I think the pixels disintegrate over years. Get past this concern of privacy. Get past this concern about, showing yourself. Your target audience wants to know who you are. Let them see you. Let them understand who you are. Robert's saying, my strategy meets someone online, actually talk with them. So I send my first level connections an invite, telling them my superpowers are of being a connector and looking to collaborate. If they do not respond, I send them a follow-up written message, telling them how do they expect to get referrals to do business with someone without talking. My question is, should I try sending them one more letter or just unfollow them? I think I get that, Robert. I don't have it completely, but what I did hear you say is you invite people by telling them your superpowers. I get that. I got superpowers too. Spin that. Turn that around. And your invite you send them should really be more about them and not about you. Make that invite about connecting. First and foremost, every LinkedIn invite's about making a connection, nothing more. Once you make the connection, then you can engage immediately and find ways to learn more about your connections and find ways to move the connection into a conversation, maybe through LinkedIn to begin with, maybe via Zoom, maybe phone, or in real life. And then through those conversations, I call them open conversations, discover the business connection. Just a thought. Instead of me touting my superpowers, I want them to know that I want to know more about them. And furthermore, I don't send invites to people who don't know me. For the most part, I do not send an invite to someone who doesn't know me until they get to know me. So I look for introductions or look for ways to bump into their content. Appreciate that, your insight for that engagement there. Melissa, Robert says, can you talk a little bit about video, where it resonates the most and some opportunities for video? Look on my YouTube channel and you'll find my latest video about content choices. And I think video is important when you have a story about multiple points of a topic. I think articles are important and useful when you have a story about multiple points about a topic. Video is useful, video is beneficial, but it can't be the only thing. You've got to have a diverse set of content that meets the needs of a diverse network. And then Melissa said she built her LinkedIn profile for career development. Now she's in a place in her career where business development, client acquisition is important. How do I expand my network to potential client pool? Does LinkedIn work better for B2B than individual clients? So LinkedIn can work for B2B or B2C. And if your network started out as career development, then just move forward and make your next set of connections focused on your business goals. Don't get rid of the other ones. Just start being purposeful about moving your new networking strategy focused on your clients and their influencers. Don't worry about removing, just worry about changing your strategy. Jorge says, if you unfollow someone, do they know? No, they do not know. Can we still be connected? Yes. And Harry asked, if I've not utilized my LinkedIn account for years, should I start a new one? Or just go back and work on the old one? Go back and work on the old one. You might have some connections that are worth doing. And secondly, Harry, you don't want two of you hanging out on LinkedIn. So if you start a new one, you got to delete the old one anyway. And Nicole, I've built 12,000 connections. I'm changing my career to executive life coaching. How do I let them know, leverage my network that I am open for business? Great question, Nicole. Here's the way you tell your network that you've changed your business. Start your conversations all about your new business. Engage on conversations all about your new business. Share content all about your new business. In 2010, I left 35 years as an IT consultant, strategist, technician, manager. I spent 35 years in the IT space. December 15th, 2010, I became Teddy Burris, a LinkedIn strategist. Almost became that. I started talking only about my new business. Huge shift in my words, my messaging, my engagement. Great questions. Thank you. One more before I move on. Leslie asked, if I work for a company but also have a separate freelance job, do I have two profiles? No. Pick the most important reason you're using LinkedIn and make that the most important thing you do. You can make LinkedIn about your side hustle or freelance, or vice versa, depending upon the main reason you use LinkedIn. Three reasons why you don't have two profiles. Number one, it's a violation of terms and services. Number two, it's a whole lot of freaking work. Number three, it's like having two wives. You can't do it effectively. And anybody want to argue with me about that? I don't want to argue about it. It's real. You want one, pick the most important reason and make that the primary thing you talk about. Let's go to number 10, then I'll come back to some more questions. I just use my HR assigned title of engineer level 3 type blah, blah, blah. Oh my God, that's horrible. Nobody has a clue what that means. You really got to be purposeful in your headline and your current position title, even your prior position titles, to tell your most important viewer what you do to create value for them. I see the phrase business developer, sales executive, account manager. And I understand what those mean, but you know what? None of those have any impact or value to your target audience. You need to tell your target audience who you are and what you do for them. It's very, very important to do. So think about what you put in those fields. And by the way, you also want to think about keyword richness. And by the way, I'd love it if somebody would flip over to Google and do a Google search for LinkedIn trainer. Somebody go do that for me. Go do a Google search for LinkedIn space trainer and tell me if my name shows up anywhere on page 1, 2, or 3. Drop that in the chat. I'd love for you to share that. And then I'll tell you why that happens, or in part why that happens. And Kevin's already responded. It's number 1, top pick. Yes, I'm showing up. Came up first. Page 1, globally. And here's why, Kevin. Because I built my profile out very focused to my target audience using my keywords. And second, come on, Ken. I'm joking, buddy. Here's why. I built my profile out keyword rich. And not only because it's in my headline, but because I also engage on content outside of LinkedIn. And when I'm asked for my website, I use my LinkedIn profile URL. I switch back and forth, my website or my LinkedIn profile URL. It's really important from a social media, from an SEO perspective and for a visibility perspective. And by the way, I'd love to tell you I make $1 million a year because I'm #1 Google result, but I'm not going to tell you those 2 keywords. I'm not going to tell you which ones are the right ones, but those are not the most important keywords for my business. Close, but not the most important. Here's another problem. No, Kevin, I don't pay for SEO. And I understand what it's all about. I truly do. Here's another problem. No one wants to work with someone who can't spell their company name or their title correctly. Do spell check. Do grammar check. Pay attention to what you're writing. By the way, I've made typos on my own stuff. Like, yeah, I'm out with you, Alexandra. If you want to see how stupid this is, go do a LinkedIn search for HR Manger or pubic speaker. It's horrible. Every year I do what's called I do a Manger report. I got to do one. Every year I do a Manger report. And I do a search for my first level network that's Mangers. And by the way, there is such a thing as a Manger. It has something to do with cooking or chefs. But every year I do it. And every year my number of first level connections with that spelling error continues to grow. Yeah, Teresa, if I only had a penny, or to spell your name wrong. But you need to look at this. Spelling and grammar are important. I'll tell you a true story. I lost a fantastic opportunity, a fantastic, huge business opportunity. I failed miserably because when I wrote the document, the proposal, I spelt the company's name wrong and I spelt the owner's name wrong. And my contact in that company, who is a personal friend, a professional friend, she called me up and she said, Teddy, my boss wants your proposal, but I'm not giving it to him. Not giving it to him. JC, I will go back and check slide number 2. Thank you. And she said she wasn't going to give it to him because she would be embarrassed herself, that I wasn't careful enough or thought it was important enough to spell the company name right and his personal name right. And I share that story publicly because it's that important. Don't be that person. Be a little better than everybody else. By the way, I now use Grammarly and to help me not make dumb mistakes. And I should have used Grammarly, had it turned on my Google Slides. So thanks, JC. Those are my top 10 that I think are important. And Natalie, can you come on up? Am I going to share this slide deck myself, or are you going to share it with everyone?
So we'll share it to those who are members of Network After Work, and they will have access to the recording. But we can go ahead and get into some more questions. We had a ton come in and we're a little short on time. So I'd like to get started on that. Let's see. How can you have a post and it's seen by hundreds of people, but not one like?
I'm sorry. I hate it myself. There's nothing you can control about that. What I would tell you is that when you see that happen, think about your messaging. Think about what you're saying. Are you giving? Are you helping? Are you providing insights? And if it happens once, don't worry about it. If it happens multiple times, then think about your messaging, because you probably need to change your messaging.
Awesome. Let's see. Can you talk about how to set up and use hashtags? A lot of questions came in regarding that.
So I'm trying to own a hashtag called hashtag PSA. And if everybody thinks hashtag PSA stands for public service announcement, that's not what it stands for. For me, it's pay serious attention. For me, that's what it's all about. And so you don't need to set them up. You just need to be purposeful about what hashtags fit at least two areas. Number one, hashtags of content that are relevant to you and of interest to you. So you want to follow them. Number two is hashtags that help promote your brand. And so if you find hashtags that are relevant to your brand and relevant to your products and offering, then you include those hashtags in your content. Now, listen to this. Listen to this. Only 3 hashtags on every post. Always 3 hashtags on every post. Nothing more. And the other way, Devin asked, how do they work? People can search for hashtags. Go up in your search bar and type in a hashtag. Type in hashtag PSA. Natalie, next.
Great. This is from Cedric. I previously had Sales Navigator and it was very useful, but it still restricted me. It stopped me from searching and I had to wait until the following month to use it. Is there a version that gives you unlimited monthly searches?
Well, LinkedIn Business Premium, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and LinkedIn Recruiter all give you unlimited searches. So if you're using Job Seeker or LinkedIn Basic, which is you're not paying for it, then you're going to hit that commercial use limit and every month resolve it. But the answer to your question, Sales Navigator and Business Premium will give you unlimited search results.
Great. Here's the next question. I want to meet like-minded people on LinkedIn to bounce ideas off and help each other grow. Is LinkedIn the place for that? I've tried, but people don't see me as a paying customer and don't continue the conversation.
So it might be the way you start that engagement that could have an impact. And I read a book from a dead guy named Dale Carnegie. The book was How to Win Friends and Influence People. I also wrote the book Networking for Mutual Benefit. And what that means is start the conversation all about them and make it all about them until you get permission to make it about yourself. And then when they see that you have some value, some insights, and you are interested in other insights, then they may be willing to join you in a Slack group, join you in a LinkedIn group, join you in some other engaging method. It's a journey. It takes time. Not everybody, as you've discovered, wants to collaborate. But I will tell you, I've got some great people in my network who collaborate regularly.
Awesome. Let's see. What do we need to know about the algorithms and how they work?
That's a hard question because the algorithms are mystical. It depends on, I don't have the answer for you because there's lots of different algorithms associated with content and associated with, followers and, what shows up in your newsfeed, et cetera, et cetera. That's too broad of a question. Other than I will tell you this. Experiment, do A/B testing. That's how you're going to figure out what you can figure out about algorithms.
How frequent should we post on LinkedIn? Is 1 per day good?
My answer is share and engage on LinkedIn to the degree that you can sustain long term. Now, I didn't answer your question. because it's different for everybody. But once a day is great if you can sustain that with compelling, rich content that your network wants. Listen to those words, that your network wants.
Great. Let's see. Can you give some advice on making a company LinkedIn account?
So it's a company page is what they're referred to. They're now referred to as LinkedIn pages. It's very easy to do. You go up to there's a work button and it's the me button, and all the way down at the bottom on the me is create a company page. If you're going to create a company page, it's like having a baby. You've got to dress it and make it look good to whatever extent you want to. You've got to feed it on a regular basis with content that your network wants, and you have to invite people to come play with your baby.
Awesome. Let's see. Linda just wrote in the chat, is it appropriate to advertise, such as offering a product or service at a discounted rate? Is there a better way or best way to do this?
So I struggle with those words, discounted rate, because I was told to stop discounting my stuff. But to answer your question, Linda, it's that I follow or try to follow a 90-10 rule. 90% of the content I share is not about Teddy, but it's highly relevant to Teddy and highly relevant to my target audience. And the more I give people content that's relevant and useful to them, the more they'll be willing to accept. 1 time out of 10, I have an offer. 1 time out of 10, I invite you to join my groups or hire me or contract me or whatever.
Awesome. Let's see. Doris wrote in, is there particular content that gets more visibility than others?
Stuff your network wants, period. Stuff your network wants.
When should you post in terms of days or times? Is there a preferred day, a preferred time?
There's lots of thoughts on this. A lot of people say, early morning, lunchtime, at 5 o'clock, Monday through Thursday. But I'm gonna tell you, I've found that I get, it varies, but I get content that gets great engagement Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays. However, don't try to create a piece of content that goes viral. That is suicidal. Regular drops of content on a regular basis that people want is how you get long-term value.
Perfect. I think we can take one more question. This is from Julius. He says that he delivers team building workshops that he lists on LinkedIn. About 250 people say that they will attend, but only 1 or 2 actually register for the event. How can he improve this?
Go back to the 250 who said they would attend and ask them why they didn't. That's the blunt answer. Find out why they didn't. Maybe it wasn't what they wanted. Maybe it was the wrong time. There may be lots of reasons. Do research. Don't try to answer the question without that research.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Teddy. And thank you to everyone that joined us for our first day of our Digital Marketing Summit that focuses on LinkedIn. I hope you all enjoyed it.